Most people don't think of strategy that way.
Developing a new strategy.
Strategic blind spots.
When strategy meets reality.
Strategy and innovation.
In the strategy world.
Drive their strategic goals.
And welcome back to Strategy Meets Reality podcast. I'm delighted today to be joined by Robyn Bolton. Thank you so much for coming on, being a guest on the Strategy Meets Reality podcast.
I am so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no, it's a pleasure. Just for our guests, do you mind giving a bit of background about yourself and about a bit of context, what you've been up to lately?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am the founder and Chief Navigator at MileZero, which is a firm that helps leaders who have made a growth decision get that growth decision moving, get results, and build a team that has a capability to keep doing it again and again. And that's really where my whole career has been based, is on growth, primarily through innovation. Started my career at Procter & Gamble, was in brand management, was fortunate enough to be on the team that developed and launched Swiffer, which is now $1 billion brand. So worked on the Walmart sales team, so got to work in Arkansas, see Walmart up close and personal, which is quite the experience. Then moved up to Boston, got my MBA at Harvard, went to work at the Boston Consulting Group for a few years, both in Boston and in Copenhagen, Denmark, and then spent about 9 years at a firm founded by Clayton Christensen, kind of best known as the father of disruptive innovation. And so that is kind of where all of my experience in corporate innovation came together, and, got to help a whole variety of companies across a whole variety of industries, seeing the leaders who really wanted to grow, had a strategy for growth, and then all of the barriers and the resistance and the things that got in the way of achieving that growth strategy. So was there up until about 2018, and then founded my own firm to continue that work.
Nice. I like it. Yeah, I really like your title, Chief Navigator.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like that. It just brings me into thinking about, especially when you're talking about they've had a strategy and then all the barriers and all that comes. So it's about that. How do we navigate through that? Because I see a lot of people when they think about stuff like innovation or growth strategies or anything they bring in, is always context free. It sounds great. It looks great. But there's no relation to the context that it has to be implemented or it has to be done on. And that's where it hits reality, and you think, this is not as easy as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, and it's the other challenge is it's so different from everything that got a leader to where they are. So, so many people in organizations, they get promoted because they are amazing at operating, right? Like you build all of this experience and this insight and this intuition in how to, do a function, run a business, and better and better and better, the continuous improvement. And that is kind of what's called a high knowledge, low assumption environment. You know more than you don't know. So you can anticipate what competitors are going to do, cause and effect. You have tons of experience, so you can give answers to questions. And growth, especially growth through innovation, which is something new that creates value, is low knowledge, high assumption. You've never done it before. Your organization hasn't done it before. Yeah. So you don't have the experience. You don't know how the market's going to respond. You can't predict cause and effect. You don't have, if you're honest with yourself, you don't have answers to all the questions. And so all of the skills, everything that you have that has made you successful as a leader, so many leaders try to just translate that into new growth and innovation, and it's just an opposite world. And so you actually kind of need to be the opposite type of leader to make your strategy move and happen. And that is a hard reality to run into.
Yes. And I see it especially in those leaders that are working in real sort of ops environments, because, ambiguity is the devil in those. And that's what we're talking about in the opposite side, is that I've got to go from someone that reduces ambiguity, optimizes all the parts, to someone who has to be really comfortable with ambiguity and darkness, that, there's things that we don't know, we're not going to know. And actually, especially in innovation, we're not going to know until we start doing it. And then we'll learn pretty quickly if it's going to work or not. And when you speak to people in ops environment, That is completely alien.
Oh, it's completely alien. And I have so much empathy for it. Like, I hate uncertainty. I feel like my career in innovation is like penance because, like, I am the person, I read the last page of a book first because I want to know who's still alive at the end. So I don't, so I don't get emotionally attached to somebody who may not make it to the end. So I hate uncertainty. And so I have a lot of empathy for those leaders. And so what I talk to them about is, and so many of them are engineers, is actually applying the scientific method to the work that has to be done and saying, okay, scientific method, you have a hypothesis, you run an experiment to prove or disprove the hypothesis, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to take whatever this big project is, and we're going to break it down into the assumptions. We're going to say, what is the hypothesis around each assumption? For each one, we're going to run really, really quick tests. And we're going to start with what I call the deal killers first. The hypotheses that if we're wrong, just shut everything down now. Because, we want to, sounds morbid, but we want to kill the idea as quickly as possible so we can get to the right idea and the one that's going to work. And that kind of helps because it doesn't feel like chance. When you don't know something, you feel like you're just guessing. It's like, okay, well, we actually have a system that we all grew up with that reduces the guessing, it reduces the risk. And so let's use that. Let's use that to shrink the uncertainty and manage the risk.
I like it. It's quite a similar approach when we think about execution, because you always think about what's the, we call it the main effort. It's slightly different, works in the same sort of way. The main effort is that, this is critical to success of this thing. So we must resource it first, and then everything sequentially afterwards. And that's the same way. Right, what is the things where, will tell us if it's going to work, quicker than others. And then let's do that first. But what pains me, and what you just talked through, which makes perfect sense, you do that. And I like the bit about doing the small tests, because I've just, with organizations, and there's none of that. It's like, I've got a good idea, let's implement it across the whole organization.
Yep.
And then it all starts to sort of just go into chaos. And you're thinking, why did you just why couldn't you just slow down and just tested what you wanted to do in maybe two areas that you could have done multiple at the same time, so you can see if there's variance? No, the whole thing.
Yeah, and that it's so common, and like, but we have to move fast. We have to do this, but I'm like, moving fast in the wrong direction is worse than moving slowly in the right one. And so, one of my favorite stories of this is years and years and years ago, McDonald's wanted to put a shrimp salad on the menu. We can debate whether that was a good idea or not. I have my thoughts, but somebody at McDonald's thought this was a great idea. And so McDonald's did what every company, what you just described, we've got to do this, we've got to do it at scale. And so they spent literally years and millions of dollars kind of engineering the shrimp salad, making sure it would work and not go bad and all of that. And then they got to the point where they're like, okay, we have to procure the shrimp because we know how many shrimp need to go on each salad to get the price point. And they were having a really hard time in procurement. And then somebody, bless their hearts, sat down and was like, why are we having such a hard time? And literally did the math, like simple multiplication of this many shrimp on a salad times how many salads we think we're going to sell. And the answer was they needed more shrimp than existed in the entire world. And you think about like that mentality of we need to go fast, we need to get started on this. And I'm like, you spent years and millions of dollars. Whereas if someone just in the first meeting was like, hey, how many do we think we'll sell in a year? I don't know, if we had to guess how many shrimp would we put on. Oh, shrimp, there aren't that many shrimp in the entire world.
This is the thing with organizations don't slow down to do stuff like, well, what you just said, we would call that red teaming or war gaming, where we invite people to destroy my plan, destroy my idea. Here's my idea, come along, let's destroy it. And just that bit up front can
Yeah.
just save so much time and effort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, it's amazing. And, so going the wrong way quickly is not a good idea. And also, isn't it better to fail small and privately than fail big and publicly? And red teaming gives you the opportunity to fail, I would call it learning, but fail in a conference room.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And
That's way better than a press release and launching and then failing in the market.
Yeah, and it's far. You see it a lot. There's a lot of companies that do this crazy sell. They'll go into different markets or different countries, and they fail pretty quickly because they haven't. I suppose it's back to my point earlier. They haven't thought about the context. They took an idea, context free, and tried to make that work. Where you think you need to move quick. I always say to organizations, you have to move as quick as or quicker than the external environment.
Yes, because otherwise you're always behind, and that people hear that and they're like, oh, we have to do everything quickly. It's like you also have to do everything smartly.
Yeah.
Right. So again, your example, like if you go into a market and you do it quickly without understanding the market, you're behind now, actually, because you've wasted a ton of time and resources in the rush instead of taking just that beat, just that pause for a conversation or a week-long trip or whatever it is, to just check the assumptions, check the hypotheses, and make sure that they prove out.
Yeah, I think it's so important. It's the same in execution. But I will see in organizations, the same with strategy and execution and innovation and all that stuff. There's so much nonsense. There's so much nonsense around here. Yeah. But what are the key things, in that world, of innovation and in your background that you're in? What's that stuff that just is nonsense, but it's just so sticky, it sticks around and organizations still do it?
Oh, I think the biggest one is that innovation is an idea problem. So many companies, when they look around and they're like, okay, we want to create something new. We want to grow our business organically. We want to create new businesses, use that as a growth measure. So we need more ideas. And the fact is, ideas are not your problem at all. Because one, ideas are a dime a dozen. People are full of ideas and companies are full of people. Therefore, companies are full of ideas. What innovation and growth actually is, it's a leadership problem. So if you're not hearing ideas, there's a reason you're not hearing ideas when you have people full of them. And so you have to look at kind of the culture aspect and your leadership aspect. If you're hearing ideas, but you're not moving them forward, you're not acting on them, you have an architecture problem. What are the structures, the processes, the governance that is getting in the way? And, your whole company is designed around making things better, faster, cheaper, which is the opposite of the learning exploration that's required. So it really is a leadership problem. It requires leaders to solve. It's not just we're going to get more ideas or bigger ideas or better ideas and then the problem solved. It's like there's the leadership component is actually the critical aspect.
Yeah, I do see this, and it makes me laugh because I am a consultant, so but is that you're right? They do think it's an idea problem, and they get a consultancy in to come and tell them an idea. But you can have all the ideas you want if you can't implement them. What's the point? And I give it, and I was exactly right with you, Wendy. In organizations, I don't think organizations are troubled for ideas. It's just that I find that leaders are so detached from reality because they don't go down. They're not going down to the edges of the organization and listening to people, seeing what's going on. If they'd done that, they'll be full of ideas.
Yes, and they would be the ideas they hear from people who are on the front lines. They would be able to sift through them really quickly. I mean, the most important thing, I think, especially in this day and age where everything is moving so fast and, the hierarchy and reporting is just like you're a month out of date by the time you get a report.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
have to get down there on the shop floor. You have to get out there in the market and talk to customers and see what's happening on the front lines. You just have to.
yeah. And I've also been accused of being a bit of a governance anarchist, but um, that, there's nothing that kills my soul anymore than when I hear people go, "Oh yeah, we've got this idea, so I need to write a paper," and I'm like, Jesus Christ! And then they just wordsmith this paper. They spend ages wordsmithing this paper for it to be literally read for a couple of minutes, if that. Board meeting with a agenda of 1,000 things that they need to get through in this board meeting. I'm like, this is not conducive to anything that is, yeah. And again, it's that bit you mentioned a few moments ago around efficiency. We've just turned organizations in this big efficiency machine, optimize the parts, and reward leaders for efficiency drives.
Yeah.
And the innovation, or that exploiting the future opportunities and efficiency, that they are opposing elements. Don't mean that you can't have one and the other. Of course, you keep them in balance. But yeah, if you're overly headed towards one, it's not going to do well.
Yeah. No, I mean, I heard this great quote. I was talking to an MIT professor who studies manufacturing, and he said, "Lean is the enemy of learning."
Yeah.
And I just thought, like, wow, that is so true. But that is also such a dagger into the heart of so many people. And then he told this story, which I don't know if it's true or not, but it's a great story, is that, in the early days of Tesla, Elon Musk met with executives from Toyota. They're like, essentially the executives were like, how have you gotten so far ahead of us in developing, hybrid car? And Elon just gestured to this warehouse they were sitting in that was just filled with like scrapped parts and just, it was a mess. And he's like, because we've been learning.
Yeah.
And that was that's so antithetical to, the Toyota production system and Lean Six Sigma and all of that like doing something new is inherently wasteful. But you're learning from every single thing. You're learning from every iteration. You can't just go, from where you are to the end state. And so that idea of lean, where we have to operate lean, it's like, then you won't learn.
No, this is the point. And there's going to be some people on there because, like, Toyota and all those things are like, tribal.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are in it or you're not. You're right in a sense that those things, like if I'm going to go for lean or something like that, that's sort of like, we've had the idea, we've done it to death. We know what we're doing now. We could predict the actions, or the outcomes of our actions. Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't you make that as efficient as possible? But what annoys me is that people get all these ideas, and again, comes back to this context-free thing. They go, right, let's bring in lean. Like I saw there was chief executive of a company I worked for many years ago, so iterations. Yeah. But they're still, so it was over a decade ago, this person was in charge. They're still feeling, people don't realise about these decisions. They're still having the side effect of this decision because he saw all that and decided to bring lean in. So he brought in lean everywhere. So again, back to our point about not doing small experiments, but into the whole organisation. But this organisation wasn't a predictable force. It was unpredictable. There wasn't any element in what they do broadly. Of course, their processes broadly, they couldn't predict the outcomes or actions anywhere. So why would you bring in lean for that? It just brings efficiency where efficiency is not needed.
Right. Exactly. And it creates, it sounds like, this culture where everyone's like, oh, lean, lean, lean. And there's this cognitive dissonance and kind of this, probably this post-traumatic stress disorder around like, oh my gosh, we got to be efficient. But this is an inherently, inefficient thing because we have to learn our way to the right answer. We have more assumptions than knowledge. You're exactly right. Once you know what you're doing, once you have more knowledge than assumptions, absolutely get efficient. Like go lean, go Six Sigma. But if you don't know what you're doing, don't optimize that.
Yeah, no, yeah, yeah. You're just optimizing nothing.
Yeah.
And it is crazy when you think about it, because I see it all the time. As soon as there are errors that come in, or a dip in performance and performance pressure starts arising, the first thing everyone does is just go internal, and everything else gets cut off. So any idea
Yes.
of innovation or anything doesn't, just get sort of dropped and secondary. And then they wonder why they can't get their leaders into thinking about, or I hate this bit at the moment, where they're going, oh, we need more entrepreneurial leaders. You just need to stop incentivizing the wrong thing. I'm going to
Right.
swear then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thing. Yeah. And actually get some balance back into your organization. And funny enough, you get more capacity to have your leaders start to think about the future opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that you mentioned incentives, I mean, just look at how leaders are incentivized, right? It's, did you deliver the quarter? Did you deliver the year? Innovation, new growth projects, they don't deliver anything in the first quarter, or usually even in the first year. And so you have to think about incentives completely differently. But then that's really hard, because you have a whole company that's incented one way, and then you're going to have these other people incented another way. And that just like is throwing sand in the system. And so it's really hard. Like, I don't want to diminish how hard this is. It is really challenging, which is why I think so few companies do it well, and why it creates such an incredible competitive advantage when companies figure out how to do it in a way that is honest. Like you said, we need to be more entrepreneurial. No, you did. What does that mean to you? Because you have designed an entire organization around crushing entrepreneurialism.
Yeah.
I talk a lot of times about corporate antibodies. As soon as they see something new, something a little different, just like antibodies in our body, they're going to swarm it and kill it. So what do you actually need, and how can you protect it? But just saying, like, we need to be more entrepreneurial, or, I love that, like, we need to be more innovative. Innovative is innovation is a strategic priority. Growth is a priority. And I'm like, how are you going to measure that? And how are you going to know when you have achieved that goal?
Yeah.
What new growth do you need? How much does that need to produce, and by when?
Yeah. Or I love it is like, so what makes you think that you're innovative? And their point, but look, it's one of our values, Mike. Of course it is. Of course, because that's going to help you. But the thing is, if you just look, and I think we're leading on the sort of same sort of things, that if you look at, especially efficiency, so you think about manufacturing process efficiency and stuff like that, it's structured and designed in a certain way, because it's going, like, we need to be really efficient at this. So we're going to have really high divisions of labor. That's why you get, like, we have a program over here called Inside the Factory, where you get to go inside the factory and see how, like, people make stuff. Like, Mr. Kipling makes his cakes, and then there you've got Sally, bless her. Sally's like 80 years old, and she's worked for the factory since she was 6. And and her whole job is just to put the cherry on top of the cake, and that's all she ever does. And she does that. And you've got loads of layers, loads of processes stuff, and the reason for that is because you want it efficient. And it's like with McDonald's, it's like they have the Big Mac, and it's done exactly the same everywhere, exactly the same, because we want that. What they don't want is spotty little 16-year-old Kevin thinking, do you know what would make this Big Mac even better? Let's put some chicken nuggets in there as well. Wouldn't that be banging?
Yep.
So these are structured in a way that aren't conducive to that. So it's like, so it's like, how do you go against the grain of what they've been taught for so long to suddenly go, well, we actually need some capacity here to be able to look to the future? And that's a hard. It's hard.
It's really, really hard. And that's where you can see, like, is innovation just a value on a wall? Is it just a strategic priority? Because you put resources against the things that are important, right?
Mm.
And so, as an executive, as a leader, I have someone coming to me and being like, hey, if we optimize this process, we can drive COGS down to this and profit up to that, and it will cost this, and you'll have an ROI in, 3/4, we'll break even in 3/4, we'll see it. And then you have somebody coming through and be like, hey, we think we need to create a new version of the Big Mac. And I don't know if we'll succeed. I don't know what'll happen. I don't know, but we need to experiment. I'm getting incentivized on my bonus is based on what I produced this year. What am I going to put budget against? Of course I'm going to put budget against the sure thing. And so that's why, it kind of comes back to incentives, and it also comes back to, the leaders and to the capabilities and the skills of the people in the organizations, because there are people in every organization who are entrepreneurial, but they're the people who they're not the high potentials that everyone loves to point to, because the high potentials have figured out how to succeed in the system.
Mm.
These are the people who are the squeaky wheels and the misfits who are always being like, well, why are we doing things that way? What if we tried this? Maybe even going rogue and being like, well, I'm just going to, get a $20 subscription a month to Claude and see what I can do on AI. It's those people that have that kind of curious, creative, I'm going to tinker with things, that you need to say, okay, if we're serious about organic growth, we're going to kind of move you over here, set up structures, but guardrails that you can bounce off of, not a rail that you keep. And we're going to protect you from the antibodies. And here are your goals. We need to, here are measurable goals that we have for you, because we need to, making this up, we need to have 25 million in revenue from things that don't exist today in 3 years. So, it's a long-term goal in today's day and age. So it gives the team time, but it doesn't give them so much time that they can just dither around forever. But you have to intentionally create and invest resources to do that.
Yeah. And it works out well, because the type of people you're talking about, you've got to put a bit of pressure on them, because that's what they want. I think if you gave them too much, then they do it. But it's inversely the other way. If they were in the organization, they would get fed up because everything's too slow. So it's about how do we allow that space to be flexible, but also keep some constraints in to keep them focused.
That's kind of one of the innovation mantras, is that constraints drive creativity.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have any constraints, you can do anything. So you need the constraints to kind of rule things out, but you don't want to be so constrained, which is kind of what happens in Lean, that this is the step-by-step process and you have to follow it like a rail, for a railroad. You need things that people can bounce in between and not go spiraling off a cliff.
Yeah. And you want that, because otherwise you're not gonna achieve anything. The payoff is big. You think about recently things like Novo Nordisk that created the the first jab. Their problem is the opposite to what we're talking about now, is that when they did come up with that idea, they then couldn't efficiently manufacture it. So it's not all one way about innovation. There is that other part that we're talking about that you do have to be efficient on. Isn't that the joys of business? It's never simple, is it?
It's never simple, but some problems are better to have than others.
Yeah, exactly. And the payoff is huge. But I think that I always think about some leaders, and you think about the decisions they make, and you're thinking, you made that decision because it looked great now, but you have now gone and cut something that is going to result in limiting someone in a couple of years. You're going to constrain them so much that it's going to make it really hard for them.
Yeah. And it's so hard because, as consultants, we can kind of stand outside of the cauldron and see it. So many times I'm like, let me just tell you how the story is going to play out because I've seen this before. Let me tell you how this ends. And the reality is, the executives are very much in the here and now. And, with kind of tenure and role shrinking, I think now it's about every 2 or 3 years, the odds of that executive making that decision, he or she is going to be gone or in another role or wherever when that in 3 years or whenever kind of everything comes home to roost. So again, you're completely logically incentivized to be like, what needs to happen now? We'll deal with tomorrow.
The thing is, though, so you, like we all are, we're consultants, and we look in, and I often get people go, "Oh, this must be a unique challenge." You sort of laugh and go, "It's not that unique, trust me." There's so many common things that happen. But when you go in as a sort of chief navigator for these, and someone wants to look at growth and innovation, but they've been a pretty much stunted organization because, normally that happens because they've had a golden ticket for so long and they're so focused on it. Now they need to do something. How would you even start that with an load of leaders saying, how do we go from get our innovative flair back?
Yeah. So the first thing I do is I think it's always important to speak the language of business in the organization. So the first thing I do is like, how will we know when we're successful? And one of the things that I do is define the growth gap. And it's super simple. I was an English literature minor. I chose my major based on how little math.
Yes,
So
yeah.
I avoid math, but I say, okay, you have this goal of being, I did this with a big global athletic goods company. I said, okay, you have a goal of being 50 billion in revenue in 5 years. Great. What's your revenue now? It's 25 billion. Great. And, they've done the strategic plan. So they've said like, okay, here's how much we think we're going to grow. We think we're going to grow, to 30 billion in 5 years. I'm like, okay, so that 50 minus 30 is 20. That means you need $20 billion in revenue from things that don't exist today in your portfolio. And that's a big number, by the way.
Yeah.
The funny thing was, a very successful company, like, oh, yeah, no problem. We can figure that out. I said, okay, back when we were having this conversation, I'm like, that's 2 Facebooks. You have to create 2 Facebooks and get them to the scale of Facebook today in 5 years. They're like, and suddenly, just that conversation completely changed how they were allocating resources, how they were allocating budget. Like that 50 minus 30 equals 20. That conversation changed things. And it gave us a number. Like, if we have to create 20 billion in new revenue, we have to have big ideas. And so that started focusing the strategy on the ideas that come to us have to be, this size or bigger. And we need a portfolio of this many ideas. And so it started it started feeling more like a business decision. Like we were able to use terms that we use in the existing business and bring kind of the discipline and the seriousness to the creative endeavor that was required.
Yes. Yeah, I like
Instead
that.
of starting from the ideas and being like, oh, which ones do we like? Let's go pursue those. Also, that factors in, but this is still a business.
Yeah. And you're hedging your bet. I was a couple of episodes ago, I was on having a conversation with Andreas, who's a VC, venture capitalist. And it's sort of similar in a way that, they've got they've got a portfolio of all these that they're hedging their bets on. But they're not testing those. So it's almost like this is, we've got all these ideas. Let's get this portfolio. Let's test these out and let's see what grows and what goes. But that takes a lot of dedication and, perseverance to do that type of thing and not get sidetracked by the news of the day.
Right. The news of the day, the tyranny of now. I mean, in my book, I pieced together a few studies. and looked at, okay, how many ideas do you need to have to get $1 million idea into the market? And so, nobody's kind of put all this together, but if you look at the odds strung across things, you need 40,000 ideas at the start of the funnel to get $1 million business. I can
Wow.
guarantee you no company is working on 40,000 ideas right now. And so
No.
when you put it that way and you're like, okay, so you want to invest in one idea and you think you're going to just by happenstance pick the one in 40,000 that's going to be successful, you need a portfolio. Maybe not a portfolio of 40,000, but a handful at least.
Yeah. You need that. I'll probably
Yeah.
challenge you on that. No organization has 40,000 ideas. I bet they've got 40,000 going on.
Yes. Yes, at least 40,000, kind of jotted down somewhere in a sauna or something that
Yeah,
should be getting worked on, but who knows how many are.
I bet they've got they've got a HR restructure. They've got an efficiency drive. They've got loads of initiatives going on. None of them are about, future innovation or future value, just stuff to keep people busy. But that's crazy though, when you think about it. Like when you put it in those terms, you then start to think, wow, that's a lot. That's a lot of ideas that have to come, and that really brings a bit of perspective about it, especially when you're thinking around how many ideas. That's got a serious resource and a dedicated team around that. But do you see that often or not?
It's actually getting rarer and rarer that there are dedicated teams to innovation. I think partially that's kind of just a sign of the times of, all the uncertainty. Managers are trying to reduce uncertainty, reduce risk. And so the focus on efficiency and incremental improvement. And so the pendulum's kind of swung from, I'd say 5-10 years ago, companies wanted to disrupt themselves. I got a lot of calls when I was at Christensen's firm. We want to disrupt ourselves. And I would explain what that sentence meant. And they'd be like, we do not want to do that. I'm like, I know you don't. Let's talk about what you actually want to accomplish. But things have swung from that to, I think, the other side where everything is efficiency, everything is incremental innovation. And we need to, and I'm seeing signs that we are kind of coming back down to more of a balance. So maybe dedicated innovation teams will come back. I think companies are starting to realize that like M&A is a great way to bring in businesses and business models that challenge the core, because it's just, companies aren't entrepreneurial. They're not going to disrupt themselves. But when business models are shifting, they can buy something that is challenging, but it's hard for them to create it themselves. It'll just instantly get killed by the antibodies.
Instantly get killed. A good friend of mine, Patrick Haverstart, talks about this a lot, where he talks about, he calls it bubble strategy. So where they create bubbles around things and protect it a lot to be of that, because things just don't. Otherwise, as soon as you create something, like it always happens, you create a team, and that team now is, and you said it earlier, one lot of the organisation incentivized to do A, this is incentivized to do B, but everything, the whole structure around the business is incentivized for A. So B is struggling, and it's not long before you talk about the antibodies, the Z's come and take over that team, and before you know it, they're in that same slump, not getting anything. You have to really protect it, which is it was quite surprising when you said that you're seeing leaders go, and you see it for fads, because it's like, I hate fads. Like I really I always look and hear the latest buzzwords. I'm like, okay, right, just like you said, playback. What does that mean? What's your interpretation of what that buzzword means? But it's a shame to think that things are going, away from innovation and sort of being a bit static. Doesn't surprise me.
And
shame.
I mean, and innovation was such a fad. I mean, oh my gosh, and it was it was great for business, but it was sad to see because you would have these innovation teams get set up and like these incredible offices, and they would like, they'd have the food. So, every company was trying to recreate Silicon Valley
Yeah,
in a corner of their office. And meanwhile,
beanbags.
everyone else in the like 95% of the company is like, okay, so they get the best offices. They get all this money to go to Burning Man. Meanwhile, we're over here actually generating revenue that's keeping us all paid. And so it created this haves and have-nots, which then, of course, created this rivalry. And it just went spitting off into some place that was not helpful. Instead of being like, hey, no, innovation is a discipline. It's part of the business. This is our growth engine. And so, yeah, the metrics are different because it's just on a different timeline. It's in an opposite world, but everyone is equally important. The operators are just as important as the innovators because the operators keep the lights on and kind of buy us time to create the next thing that gets us to the next phase of our growth or, the next change in the world or technology or whatever it is.
Yeah. I just wish people would just get back to a bit of no nonsense common sense around this stuff. It's not hard what we're talking about. It's always been the same.
Yeah.
Humans are the same. It's like, how do we achieve superior value as efficiently as possible today, whilst understand what we need to change now to be viable in the future? Is that today and tomorrow continuum, isn't it? Otherwise, you'll be that human that's completely lost contact with what's going on, and you don't adapt, and then you don't adapt, you then go. But there's all these fads that keep coming up, and it distracts people. It's like AI is one of those at the moment. I know it's a huge thing that's going on at the moment, but it's almost like you can't have anything unless it's something to do with AI. Yeah. Rather than thinking, no, like I'm talking about strategy, and we can talk about strategy impacting, but strategy. Just because you've got AI now doesn't mean suddenly strategy has changed. It just means we've got another contextual factor that we need to consider amongst all the other contextual factors that we now need to consider.
Yep. Yeah. And the thing is, AI is a tool.
Yeah.
It's a tool just like PowerPoint is a tool or, Six Sigma is a tool. It's a tool. And, again, humans, we always go after the shiny object. Like we all just run in the herd and, notice very much this kind of freeze or follow thing amongst executives. It's like either right now there's so much uncertainty that they're freezing. And they're like, we're just going to keep doing what we've always been doing and like keep our head down. And then maybe nobody will notice us and everything will stay the same. Or everyone's just following what everybody else is doing because there's safety in numbers. Yeah. And it's like, okay, let's just stop for a moment and like calibrate. Yes, we have this new tool. It is developing incredibly quick. Like every 6 months, it is something different, but it's a tool in this toolkit. And so really going back to strategy, like what is the problem we're trying to solve? What tools do we need to solve that problem? Just back to basics.
Yeah. And it's the same with like, bringing it in, going back to basics with innovation. Like what your book is all about. It's like your book, Unlocking Innovation. Like how do we get to that point where we could do that, and then we can probably figure out how we want to bring these things in or where we need to bring these things in. But if we're just looking at it as a blunt tool to just increase even more efficient.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, now I've got this. I don't need all these people. So let's just get rid of these people. And I'll be like, see where that gets you when you lose all capacity to adapt.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. And it's so crazy. And it's so funny that we see it over and over. Like you said, fads, it just happens all the time. And we're so human. And so we keep committing the same mistakes. And it's going back to something you said of like, oh, but we're different. And it's like, yes, you are a special snowflake, but you're still a snowflake like all the other snowflakes. So you're both unique and the same.
Yes. And if my measure to see where the fads are is I go onto LinkedIn and I go see what the coaches now rename themselves to.
Yes.
That's my measure of where the things are going. And you see all the fads there just by, I'm now an expert in this. I'm a coach to unlock the, you're like, okay, all right, got it. I'm now, what's the latest one? I'm now an ADHD coach. I'm now, an innovation coach. I'm now AI coach. Jesus Christ, here we go.
Yeah. Oh no,
Yeah.
the AI coaches have exploded. The innovation coaches have faded out, and it's just you got to look at, okay, well, what are the credentials? What have you actually done? Because if you've just used Claude to create a few agents, are you really an AI expert?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you could tell the ones I've had some great ones on here, and you could really tell the difference in how they're more pragmatic than the doomsday ones that are like, you've got to do it now, or you're going to burn.
Yes. Use this tool. This AI system will solve all of your problems. It's like,
and it brings us back to our original point, wasn't it? About we're not looking and testing, thinking what our problem is. We're just shoving it in and hoping for the best. Yeah. If it was that simple, we'd all do it.
I know, but you just feel like you're always behind. So we got to do something now instead of taking a beat, being like, what's happening on the front lines?
Yeah.
What's the problem we're solving? What's the best tool?
Yeah. And, you're always going to be behind to some degree. And I think that's just being comfortable with that, comfortable with that ambiguity, that darkness, and the fact that, there's always going to be something that's slightly ahead. And then at some point you'll be slightly ahead. That's a challenge of organizations, and embrace it. And like you said, take a beat, relax.
Yeah, you don't have to be ahead at everything.
Just,
pick what you need to be ahead at and what that actually means.
Yeah.
So many companies are like, oh, we're behind on AI. I'm like, behind compared to who?
Yeah. Compared to what? Yeah. Exactly. I like it. That's why you always got to look at the people around you and the dynamics. Where are they going? We don't just make, trite analogies and go, oh yeah, we just need to do this faster. Okay, why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
I like it. Good. More. I like it, Robyn. More pragmatic conversations. That's what we need.
Yes, true.
Yeah. We'll win one episode at a time. But
we'll get there one step at a time, like you said.
Exactly. Before I let you go, what would you like people or listeners to think about from this episode?
The biggest thing I want people to take away is that you need to get out of the office, away from the computer, and see what's going on in the front lines. There is absolutely nothing that can replace actually seeing and experiencing what's going on the ground for yourself. There's no report, there's no video, nothing will be as insightful or as memorable or as motivating as actually seeing what's happening for yourself.
I like that. And like you said at the start, your organization's full of people, and that means you haven't got an idea problem.
You don't have an idea problem. You've got more than 40,000 ideas floating around your company. You just have to bring the right ones to the top and give them a way to work forward.
Yeah, I like it. Thank you so much for being a fabulous guest.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, I love a good practical conversation.
And for our listeners, if you enjoyed this, please share, subscribe, comment, so that helps get further reach, so that people can get such value from these conversations. And I'll put in the link so you can get in touch with Robyn, and also I'll link you to a fabulous book, Unlocking Innovation. That'll be all in the show notes, so you can digest that and get more value from this episode. So thank you for listening, and again, Robyn, thank you for being such a great guest.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Take care, everyone.